Okay, welcome back. I'm Curtis Storer, trainer with Family Investor, doing a basic training on risk versus reward. Uh, I put this training towards the end of your basic training for a good reason. So you have a clear understanding where things go now. You've learned a little bit about a lot. So congratulations for getting here. Now you're going to start seeing where I believe is best for everyone where to put things. And you'll understand. This is I get really excited towards this part and passionate about some of the things I say. So forgive me if I get overly enthusiastic about something. But let me get into this because this is something I really like. It's risk versus reward, how to gauge it, and you could. There is a way to determine your you could calculate it. You could calculate it, but I think this is made up to make investors feel comfortable. But there's a calculation out there you could do in stocks, and it's called a stop loss, and you could designate where you want your investment to sell at, so if you can only lose so much on that investment. It minimizes your losses, but it's still a loss. And then if you know what your loss could be, they have a calculation way to calculate that. Like the first one here is if you set it at $5 and your expected return is $10, your ratio is 1 to 2, which is not really good. And they calculate this ratio off of a track record, and I'll get into that a little bit deeper. But it's just to get you excited about high risk investments, and since they focus on the gain and not so much on the loss, and we teach you to focus on the track record. What has the investment done? What's the track record? A lot of things you have to look at the track record, and you can't really determine the outcome of investments because there's so many what ifs. Here's what I believe. You need to ask these questions. What do I know, or you, I'm talking about you, you ask yourself this question. What do I know about this form of investing? Are you an expert? Are you a novice? Or you know nothing about it? So if you're an expert, some of you might be cringing with my last statement about the stop loss. If you're an expert in stocks and you know them inside and out, you're like, oh, Anyways, you're an expert. If you've been doing it for 10 years, 7 years, 5 years, you've been doing it and you have a track record and you repeatedly make money in stocks, you're an expert, and your risk is lower because you know what you're doing, what to look for. If you're a novice, as a lot of us are novices, and we get into something, you start basically knowing nothing. You might take a training and you become a novice. You tend to lose more money because you don't know all the ins and outs, and you might make mistakes, and mistakes can be costly. I know. Then you become an expert, and your track record, you basically do really well. So if you're a novice or know nothing, you have to get an expert advisor. You have to get an advisor. So you have to know what they know about these types of investments. So if you're working with some of the top people in investing in stocks in the stock market, you're going to feel a lot more comfortable than if you were working with a novice. That's simple. And you have a responsibility to look at the investment and not just go along with the advisor. You need to look at the track record. And it's just historical information. And track record, I believe the word comes from horse racing, and they display it as odds. Odds of that horse's winning. Yes, once in a while, the long shot horse with a high odds usually doesn't win, but can on an occasion. Maybe they gave him a little B1 shot to pep him up a little bit more that day, and he came in. Some people bet on the long shots. They lose probably 80-90% of the time, but when they hit that one long shot, they make up for their losses, and it makes them feel good. I'm not a bettor on horses, but I see it all the time. And so let's get back on track here. Track record. And what's the advisor's track record? So if you have an industry, let me talk about real estate, multifamily. Multifamily has its own track record. It's known for certain things, and historically the returns. But if you have somebody who's managing that apartment complex, let's say, and they don't know what they're doing, that property can be run down and go into the ground and have a bad track record compared to the industry standard. But that's because of the person doing the work. So that's the advisor's track record. The advisor, the person who's managing the people involved in it. And for example, you have a lot of people, they state, I've been in this industry for 25 years. Well, I could talk about real estate investments since that's the industry where I grew up in. And I worked in it for over 25 years, but it wasn't until 7 years ago I became full-time as a real estate investor. My sole income came from that. Yes, 30 years ago, or maybe even longer than 30 years ago, I was much younger than that. I used to clean homes for real estate investors of she wasn't really my aunt or my second mother, but we were really close. And I used to work for her and do that stuff. And I learned from her about rental properties and how messy they can get. And I cleaned up the yards and everything like that. So I've always been around real estate. So I could claim, 40 years, 50 years in real estate? That's ridiculous. 25 years ago, I actually got my real estate license. So maybe that counts. But I was only in real estate for a while. Then I went as an agent. Then I went into mortgage. So what really counts? I think you have to look at a person's current track record. What have they done in the last 5 years? Because you could consider all that as dabbling in real estate. I was an agent. I became a mortgage broker. I became an investor. But I've been an investor for almost 10 years now. So what can I claim? Right? Look at my track record. Look at what I do and my teams are doing. And then it comes down to, how do you feel about those track records and your knowledge combined? If you don't feel comfortable, stick with your feelings. Don't do it. Okay. The risk pyramid. You'll notice family investor, the logo is a pyramid, and there's a reason for that, and you're going to find out. And you could Google risk pyramid and get 20 million results. And very few are the same unless they're basically from the same company. They have a different look. There's a lot of risk pyramids out there, and people's perspectives of what should be in there. I'm going to start off with this one. Most of them have a low, medium, and high risk section. This one I like because it includes a financial foundation, which is a great thing. You can see what this company that's put this together and what they've put into each level High risk contains investments that if you do well, you can make the big bucks, but most likely you will lose your investment principal, and it could be in one day. Medium risk, I define as you can have a loss of principal, negative returns. I did that training, and we go deeper into each different one and explain why. So you can make better decisions, but that's usually your second level. In this, it's like your third level, and I'll explain why. Low risk contains investments that the loss of principal is very low or guarantee of no loss. That's what I see in low risk. Though, things that you cannot lose your principal investment, which is a good thing if they're giving you a good return on your money. So and we get into that. The financial foundation is what everyone should have before they start investing at all. Without the foundation, your financial house is going to collapse. But let's get back to risk and return, and later on I'll explain more about the foundation. And as you'll see, your reward in these are determined on the risk. But as I said earlier, you can invest in high risk or medium risk products if you have someone with a great track record. I always keep that in mind. I like this one because it's clear where you should start. And we'll show you a safer way to keep your entire journey to, build your wealth and have fun. And safe is not accurate since there is risk in even a savings account. Just research saving and loans crisis. You couldn't get your savings during that time. Yes, you couldn't get your money, and some people lost money during the savings and loan crisis. So even if you think there's no risk, and that's, they're FDIC insured, which, as I told you before, that FDI insurance started back in the 33s just to get people to start putting money into the banks instead of in their mattress pillows, coffee cans buried in the backyard. You don't hear those stories anymore, but it's true. Someday you might be digging in your backyard, find a freaking coffee can full of cash from the 1940s. Okay. And they say adrenaline and fun up here. If you call the high possibility of losing money is fun, if you want adrenaline, go skydiving, bungee jumping. I mean, losing money, I don't believe is fun. But I believe what they're saying is just like those people I see betting on horses, they're always pumped up with adrenaline. Their horse wins, it's fun. Their horse loses, they walk around the restaurant. They do. I go to a restaurant that does off-track betting, and I know some of those guys, and you could tell they're in a bad mood because they've been losing all day. There's no fun in losing, but there's, I guess there's adrenaline. There's going to be a lot of advisors out there that are going to disagree with these points, but that's probably since they have a great track record and an investment that they're trying to sell you. So it could be either one. They're really good at it, or someone might say, I'd rather invest in single family homes than apartment complexes. And I would argue to say that apartment complexes have less risk, and we talk about that in our real estate basics, than even buying a single family home, especially as a rental. And just from my life experiences, I could tell you, getting into this speculative area in investments is not a good good place to go. And it's not necessary. You could become a multi-millionaire and never invest in that category. There's that family investor pyramid. And, I could show you a whole bunch of, many more financial pyramids like the previous ones. But let's get into the basic concept that I feel will be the most useful in helping you make better choices. We don't put investments in our pyramid because you do that using the questions and guidelines provided to determine where each belongs. Remember I asked you the questions, your knowledge level, track record. Then because you might think something's low risk, but if you don't feel comfortable about it and you have no knowledge about it, don't invest in it because it's a higher risk because you have no knowledge about it. That's why we're doing the training, so you could understand your choices better. And then it can become a lower risk instead of a high risk. You might be working in a low risk area like private lending or real estate investments and lose everything. So after losing everything, do you think that was high risk or low risk? And the reason there's loss is, ask me how I know, novice. When you're a novice, you make mistakes. I made mistakes when I was in the fix and flip business, and it cost me money. But I made money. Not as much as I thought I was going to make, but I still made money. I was lucky. That's luck. Okay? And at Family Investor, we believe everyone must start at the foundation. And the reasons are covered, especially in asset protection trainings. But the items listed are to protect you from losing it all due to unforeseen events. And we'll get into that some more. It's like you have homeowners insurance in case of a fire, car insurance in case of an accident, health insurance to pay for medical bills. And not everybody, and those are pretty much required, but not everybody gets disability and life insurance. And I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent here, but how many homes have you lived in that have burned down to the ground? If you've had one, I'm sorry. But I have owned homes for 40 years, and I have not yet have one burned down. When I was younger, I got into car accidents, but I haven't had a car accident for I don't know how many years, and I have full coverage. I am healthy, and I thank God for all these things, but I am healthy. I even didn't carry health insurance for 5 years because I was healthy. And as I got older, I decided, well, maybe I should carry it just in case. And I spend all that money on the just in case part. You spend money on your homeowner's insurance just in case. And what about just in case you're disabled? What if just in case you do pass away? We have a better chance of dying than we do our house burning up. I mean, both might happen. But anyways, I'll get off that little pony there and get back to the training here. And you'll see that the high risk is at the top here as you go up. And in the beginning, I put in percentages here. That's the percentage of your total income. So the key is to put more in your foundation. That's why the pyramid is shaped the way it is. If you're starting out, this is your plan right here. If you have to put 5% in speculative, that's your choice. If you feel comfortable, if it passes the test, but start at the foundation. You'll see that each level goes up and it's smaller percentage. But let's say if you make $4,000 a month, 40% would be $1,600. 30% of $4,000 a month is $1,200, and so on and so forth. And of course, you're going to have other bills and stuff on top of these, but this is just to give you an idea of, you know, what you should put into each. And we'll show you in our advanced trainings. We get deeper into that. Going through our trainings, you're going to find out that you're putting so much into your foundation to begin with, since it is larger. But once you get your foundational products together, and your foundation is at 100%, where it's you have everything in there, it's funded, and you might need just 10% of your income to continue to maintain your foundational products. Then you could shift 30% from your foundation, which was 40% before, up. So now your lower risk goes up 10%. We go up to 40% there. Your medium goes up. Speculative, I keep it at 5%. That's, you know, if you lose 5% of your income, that's probably not a whole lot. That could, you know, at $200. And obviously, when we get into the real life scenarios later on, these things will vary according to your debt, and based on your dreams and what your goals are. But you really need to look at it this way, because you really need to build the lower products first. And that's what I don't like about our industry, because in our industry, a lot of the trainers, the mentors out there, they focus on one thing. You know, multifamily, fix and flips, just business flips, notes, storage units. And it's not a bad thing. Focus is good, but you need to know your options, and you need to know how to evaluate your options. You need to determine your risk versus your return. Is it really worth that? And once again, I'm going to tell you, in our advanced trainings, we're going to show you ways that you can make millions and stay in the lower risk categories. Once again, to review the questions here. What do you know about it? What does your advisors know about it? The track record of the investment, the track record of the advisor, and how do you feel about both? Due diligence. I threw this in here because you got to do your due diligence. As I said earlier, even if you're working with an expert, do your due diligence. And it's explained here. You have to look at the numbers. You have to look at the documents they provide. As a private lender, I had so many investors that we gave them access to all this information to put another set of eyes on the investment and look at those investments. They're required to do their own due diligence. We can't make them, but everybody should do their due diligence. Look at the stuff. Make sure that the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. It's your money. And we provide you with a link that goes into due diligence a little bit more. Financial foundation. this is what should be included in that financial foundation. Own a home. If you're most likely, if you have the ability to rent a property, you have the ability to buy something. And the only time, the best time to buy a single family dwelling or an apartment or a condo is when you're going to live in it. And the reason for that is a mortgage may cost you less, which it usually does, than renting. So renting is like flushing money down the toilet. I mean, yes, I'm an investor in apartment complexes. And as an investor, I'm receiving that money. And those apartment complexes are making millions of dollars that are being taken out of your pocket, and you're creating income and large returns for our investors. Emergency funds. Some people say you should have 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months of your current job or your income. And it's true. It used to be jobs were more abundant. You would, if you got let go from one job, you'd probably have another job within a couple months. You work hard at it. Nowadays, people are finding that they get let go from a job, and it could be years before they find another one, or they might even have to take a cut in pay. I've know people who have left a $100,000 position and only be able to get $60,000 for a very similar position. It's what businesses are doing. They're cutting their costs to increase their profits. But it's a sad thing. So you need to really have emergency funds. And part of the foundation is a retirement. And whenever you say retirement, everybody thinks of 401k. That might not be your best choice because of negative returns in that. There's other vehicles that we're going to talk about. Income protection, disability. It's really a foundational product. If you get disabled, who's going to pay your bills? You see those commercials that duck on there all the time. And it's kind of funny. And you got to think about that. Until you create something, let's say you get into an apartment complex or a rental property. Let's say that's all you can handle at the time, which if that's all you can handle at the time, it's the right choice. You get a rental property that your mortgage is $800, the rent's $1,600, which you're not really making a profit, but if you really had to, you could take that positive cash flow and use it as income. But how many of those would you need in order to, replace your income? And that's part of the training too. Is how do you create enough passive income so if you do lose your job, you're protected. You're still going to be making that kind of money. And of course, everybody realizes the importance of medical insurance because we see it all the time. How families are devastated by medical bills because they don't have medical insurance or something isn't covered and they're denied. And these pills cost hundreds of dollars, and that you need them to survive. It's a sad thing. It really is. And the thing with medical insurance is like life insurance, you can't get it after you're sick. Once you've been diagnosed with cancer, they're not going to give you medical insurance. Otherwise it's going to be really high, and it might be really high, but it's probably worth it. You probably pay more. And if you don't survive, then who's going to have to pay those bills? Your family. And life insurance, that's another thing. I don't know why it's not a requirement. It should be. And some people, even if you have to get term to start off with, it depends on your situation. I encourage everybody to get permanent life insurance because it's better, it's flexible, and it has more benefits. It even covers long-term care, critical care. You could get money out of it tax-free for those things. So it should be part of your foundation. And we'll go into that deeper later on. Just some definitions here I went over already. And that's in a nutshell, but that's not how you determine your risk, right? You got to ask yourself those questions. Do your due diligence. Okay, wrapping it up a little bit here, you got to get started by building your foundation. You got to build the foundation first. You can't build a house, you can't build anything without the foundation. You got to work on the bottom pyramid. Okay, and that's why I put this training where I put it, because we're going to go deeper into all these different basic financial trainings that we did on basics. We're going to go deeper into it, and you got to start thinking about your foundation. Where do you want to go? The key, number one investment, though, is in yourself. And you need to educate yourself on, and then you start with the low, and you're here now, and we're going to teach you about these lower risk investments. And I'll tell you again, you can make millions doing this stuff, and we'll show you. And of course, back to the track record. And part of your foundation is asset protection. Why would somebody who's wealthy or has any assets, a house, a car, anything, why would you not protect that? It's like buying, let's say you paid cash for a brand new Porsche. Would you not insure that? Would you not get protection in case someone else, the unknown, hits you? And we talk about other asset protection besides insurance. There's so many other ways to protect your assets and protect you from losses. Losses is the biggest reason you need asset protection. So I'll keep that in mind. Okay, once again, wrapping it up. Write down your questions in your notebook. I keep repeating myself, but this is in case someone skips. Write your questions down. Watch this video twice if you have to. Write your questions down, but make sure you go into the deep dive and learn more. We will talk about risk and everything that we teach, because everything has risk. So we'll talk about it, and we'll help. And by the time you get through the deep dives and get into the big picture, you'll feel really comfortable with what you're learning. And I thank you once again. Thank you for going through these trainings, and let's get to the next one.